Okay, so there are two models that you're going to need to download from Sketchfab. I will leave the link in the description of the video. It's this popcorn bucket that we're going to use, and we're going to use the texture from this popcorn and not the popcorn itself because it has a lot of polygons. Download that from the link given in the description. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to After Effects and import your video. I will leave a link for my video in the description. Drag it down into this box, and for me, I took away the first few seconds because I thought I might have trouble with the tracking with the bins, so I'm gonna cut that and then delete. So I push Ctrl+Shift+D to cut it, and I'm gonna just bring that to the start, and I'm gonna go to composition, and I've just reduced the frame, or you might have time so the whole video fits in and you won't get any white frames that get rendered out in PNG. So that's all good. So just go through it from start to finish, making sure you're happy with your clip. Go to File, Export, and add to render queue. Go to Output Module Lossless, and here you can choose a PNG sequence. Click OK. Go to Output, and then just create a folder where your PNG sequence will be rendered to. Okay, so in Cinema 4D, you're going to go to Tracker, Motion Tracker, and Footage, and this is where you're going to input your PNG sequence. Just click on the first one and click Open. It will recognize it as a whole video with a sequence, and if you scrub through it, that's your video. You're going to go to resampling and just increase it to 100 because that's the quality of the video. After that, you can create a background object. That's going to help with Octane. After that, you're going to go to 2D tracking. I like to go about halfway. I'm going to change the number of tracks to 1000. Click OK and create auto tracks. And then after that, just click Auto Track. Once that's finished, you'll go to 3D Solve, and you'll run your 3D solver. That will take a few minutes. Once that's done, you're going to go to Reconstruction, and you can generate a point cloud, and this will generate a outline of some of your buildings and bushes and stuff, or whatever you have in your video. I'm going to switch to my other window now. Okay, so once you've done all your motion tracking, you should see a solved camera, auto features, and then if you did the scene point cloud, if I just come out of my camera, you can see what I've got. So you've got a little bit of detail with these bushes and the cinema and the flooring. So that's just going to help when we place some sort of cubes as colliders for these bushes, so you know where to place it in 3D space. So for your motion tracker, you're going to need a couple of tags. The first one is a planar constraint. To get that, go to Tags, Tracker Tags, and click on Planar Constraint. It will form a triangle, and you want to get 3 green points. So if you choose a place and it doesn't go green, choose another place. Once you get the 3 green, you're going to click on Create a Plane, and that will lay down a plane for you. And then you just want to make sure this covers the whole of the video, so just enlarge that plane by going to Scale and make sure that fits the whole video. You can rotate it as well. After that tag, you'll get another tag, and this is a position constraint. This will help secure the bucket in place, and just pop that in the middle of your triangle. Okay, so for your plane, you are going to create a shadow catcher. To do that, create a Octane material, open that up, go to common and select shadow catcher, and then just drag that onto your plane. And then you'll be able to see all the shadows from the light source. To see your background in Octane, you're going to create a new material, and then in the diffuse is where you'll load up the video, and you'll go to your PNG sequence, and then again just click the first one and click open. That will automatically open up everything. Then click on the picture. This will bring you through to here. Go to animation and then calculate. After that, go down to editor and click animate preview, and then drag that onto your background. If you still can't see it, it will be because you'll need to go from direct lighting to path tracing and making sure you click on one of these: alpha channel, keep environment. At the end of that, the first thing we'll do is we'll add this name to the bucket. So the way I did that, you go to MoGraph, go to MoText. It's going to be behind the camera. So just going to zoom out. Type whatever you want. I had Stephen Dog. I chose Assassin Primary. Go up to this and click Wrap. Make that a child of the MoText just beneath. And you can see it's wrapped around. Click Fit to Parent just to make sure it covers the whole text. And to get the curve in it, we just either reduce the tension or increase it. And then it's just a case of click on your MoText, shrinking it down, and then lining up with your bucket. For the popcorn, I didn't use the popcorn because it had a lot of polygons, so I made my popcorn. So to do that, I go up to here and I grabbed a spear. What I did is I combined multiple spears together, and I wanted it more popcorn, so about 9, just the uneven shape. Doesn't have to be perfect, so just an uneven shape. And copy this 3 times. So with my second spear, I just dragged that out a bit, and I reduced it like so. The goal is just to make a popcorn looking object. So this one maybe to the side, reduce it, and the last one. That's your general shape. So let's select all these. So go to the bottom, go to the top, hold down Shift, push Alt G, rename this popcorn. From here, right click and select children, right click again and connect objects plus delete. Now that's just combined all that into one, and if you move it, it's just one object. And from there, created an Octane material, loaded the material from that popcorn we downloaded in the diffuse, and I dragged that onto the popcorn. And it's looking something like that, which is not too bad. Sure, we'll just leave this out of view for now. Just reduce this to roughly the size it's going to come out of the bucket. It doesn't have to be precise because we can make adjustments. And so that was that. I dragged in an XP system. So to do that, I went to X-particles and clicked on XP system. And then that should give you one emitter. Again, it will be round about here, so you have to come out your camera. I lined the emitter onto the bucket, so you can see it's here. So just be careful, it doesn't have to be precise, but I had mine at the top. If you go too low, it's not going to come out because of that, the top of it. So for me, what worked best is just having the emitter at the top of the bucket. And then let me just turn off these other emitters. So my first emitter was just at the top. So it looks like it's just coming out. So my settings for the emitter are, go to Object. The emitter shape is a circle. Just make it the size roughly of the bucket circumference. Go to Emission. I chose Shot. Fire one load of particles up on frame number 1. The duration will be 20, and for the first one I just did a shot count of 30. The other important things to look for are the speed, how fast you want the popcorn to come out, and the size of the popcorn. 2 seemed a little bit too small, and again after 3 it seemed too big, so it will depend on the size of your bucket, but you can adjust these by yourself. Okay, so that's going to shoot a load of particles out from here. But how do we see it in Octane? Octane object tag. So you go to Tags, Cinema 4D object tags, and select Octane object tag. In the object tag, we're going to go to particle rendering, and that's when you're going to drag your popcorn you just made. So just click on your popcorn and drag it down to that. And to see that popcorn, you're going to need to select Geometry. So that was the first blast. Duplicate these emitters and made another 6 copies. So I just went to Emitter, Control, and dragged it up. So everything is the same, but the only difference is for emitter 2, the shot time is on 70. So at 70, another blast will come out, and I just changed this to 50, and the same on emitter 2, 140 frame, 50. The next one was 210, 50. 280, 50, 350, 50, and 420, 50. And once you play that, you should see the emission from your popcorn. First blast on the first frame. Popcorn comes out. And it gets to the 70th frame, and then the second blast, etc., etc. At this stage, you will have the popcorn falling through the floor. The shadows will be there, but the X-particles need to have a tag on this plane. So to do that, I went to Plane, I went to Tags, X-particle tags, and chose a collider tag. These are my settings. You can play around with them, but this worked well for my scene. The bounce is when the popcorn lands on the floor. It's gonna, how high is it gonna bounce off, basically. The friction is how much would it, skate across, or will it go slowly, and the scatter just means once it lands, it will just spread out. So these are my settings, and it could be different for you. Just play around with it. One thing I forgot to do was on the emitter, on my first render, I noticed the popcorn were all coming out the same way. And I looked for ages how to rotate this. And it was in extended data. You have to go into this tab and make sure you click on rotation. And to keep things simple, I just clicked random. That is our mission of the popcorn. The popcorn is landing on the floor, but on this you can see it spreads out a little bit. So what I did roughly to make making sure the popcorn wasn't going through any bushes or anything, I created a few cubes and I put on some collider tags. As you can see, I ended up putting a shadow catcher on it because the problem I was having when I was rendering it out, you could see the popcorn behind it, and even though you could create a mask in After Effects, then that would have an effect on the popcorn coming forward as well. So if you just get a shadow catcher and just drop that onto all your colliders for your bushes, that should solve that. And in my final render, they ended up bouncing quite nicely off the bushes, so that kind of made the 3D effect kind of integrate a little bit more with the footage. Obviously you need to light this scene, so what I did is I went to objects, dropped in a HRDI, and I brought this here, clicked on this environment tag, and I loaded in a HRDI which I found from the internet, which was this website, hrdIhaven.com. You can download free HRDIs. Ideally what you could do is once you take the video, you could use a Insta360 and make a HRDI yourself, but I don't have the budget for that, so I just borrowed one. So that website, they have all sorts. You have indoor, outdoor, some by the forest, some by the beach. To get a good lighting, I ended up just going with this workshop one. It's indoors, I know, but it seemed to give a better shadow. I only needed a little bit for this and the popcorn. I felt that went well. So load that up, and once you have your HRDI, you just want to match the shadows. So if I turn this power up, for example, that looks way too bright. And then you can see the shadow here. So it's kind of like a 2 o'clock position. You can make adjustments by moving it around a little bit. And maybe give you a longer shadow, shorter shadow. But yeah, you can play around with that and match up your HRDI to the video that you used. The other thing I did was I had I call it a bucket collider. I noticed the popcorn was getting stuck at the top of the bucket. If I zoom into it, it was getting wedged here. The emitter's on top, but it comes out a little bit because of the size, and they're all getting wedged. So obviously I moved the emitter up a little bit, but I want the bucket to be a collider, so if they do come down and hit it, then they're going to bounce off. They're not going to go through the bucket. I didn't do it to the top just in case there was that issue. Like I said, if it's too high up, then they might get stuck. So I created a tube for the bucket. To make it smoother, I added 64 rotation, and then adjust the inner radius, outer radius, so it's hollow, and then line it up over the bucket by making it editable, moving it along, and making your adjustments. When the popcorn explodes up, you want them to interact with each other, and for that, in your XP system, which you want to save to the last thing, is XPP collisions, and that's found in your dynamics. So click on dynamics and select that. Preview your simulation as best you can, and just see if anything is weird, like it's going through some edges. When I first did it, they were going through these bins, or they were slipping back, but I realized I left a environment collider, so that was the reason for that. So you just want to make sure everything's looking good. Once you're happy with that, I'll show you my settings. What I did was I changed max samples to 500. The render's not going to take an awful long time because there's not going to be much in it. But I changed max samples to 500, diffuse 10, specular 10, other things, GI clamp 1, adaptive sampling, go to camera image denoiser, enabled that, and then I did mine as a alpha channel, and you can see the video is still there, but that's because we got a background on, so let's just take that off. In my settings in Cinema 4D, making sure you're on Octane renderer, just check your settings here. It's automatically set for 1080, 1920, 30 frames. The frame range is going to be from 0 to 549. In Octane renderer, I use all GPs, and I go to save, and I'm going to choose a save folder. I'm trying to use the EXR, the render passes. So for me, I'm experimenting with that, but I'm not good enough to tell you all about that at the moment. So once you're happy with everything, make sure you save it, and then click this play button and render out. You can then edit it in your choice of editing software, add some sound effects, add some music, and that's it. If you have any questions, please leave your questions in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you.